Most people would never look at an old bearing and see a knife in it, but steel like this still has life left inside. Today I'm forging a traditional Yakut knife, a blade designed inspired by the knives used by the Sakha people of Siberia for centuries. This knife was shaped by harsh winters, practical work, and generations of craftsmen refining a tool that had to function reliably in extreme cold. And that is exactly what makes it so interesting. First, I straighten the bearing and turn it into usable steel. Bearing steel is incredibly tough. It was designed to survive constant stress, friction, and impact. That makes it excellent material for a working knife. I enjoy working with a recycled steel like this. It already carries a history of its own. In the northern regions of Siberia, metal was once a valuable resource. Iron often had to travel enormous distance through trade routes, so craftsmen learned to use every piece carefully. Old tools were frequently reforged into new ones. Nothing useful was wasted. That practical mindset became part of the tradition itself. Now I begin shaping the blade. The point needs to stay clean and balanced. Traditional Yakut knife geometry evolved slowly over centuries, not through theory, through use, through hunting, woodworking, daily survival. If a shape continued to exist generation after generation, it usually meant one thing: it worked. Today the Yakut knife is known far beyond Siberia. Collectors, hunters, and craftsmen around the world study this blade design because beneath its simple appearance, it's an extremely intelligent geometry. Many modern knife makers still examine traditional Yakut knives to understand the way they cut the way they do. And again they discover that many old solutions remain surprisingly effective even today. Now I forge the tang. The tang forms the foundation of the handle and strongly affects the balance of the knife. A poorly balanced knife becomes tiring to use it over a long period of work. Traditional craftsmen understood this very well. For the Sakha people, the knife was not a special object. It was an everyday tool. It was used to prepare food, carve wood, repair equipment, make hunting tools, and perform countless ordinary tasks. In many ways, the knife became an extension of the hand. Because of that, practicality always came first. Beauty was never the main goal. Good proportions and careful workmanship created beauty naturally. One of the most distinctive features of the Yakut knife is the asymmetrical blade. One side remains nearly flat, the other has a deep groove. Unlike decorative fillers seen on many modern knives, this geometry has a practical purpose. It reduces resistance while cutting, especially during long controlled cuts through wood, meat, or frozen material. Sometimes strength does not come from thickness, it comes from shape. Even a small curve can dramatically increase rigidity. The Yakut knife follows a similar principle. Now I forge the blade carefully, at lower temperature using a smaller hammer. This stage takes patience. The steel becomes denser and more refined with controlled forging. I want the blade to remain hard enough to hold an edge, but still flexible enough to survive real work. Now I move on to roof grinding and normalization. Normalization is a heat treatment process where the steel is heated above critical temperature and then allowed to cool slowly in air. This improves the internal structure of the steel and relieves stress created during forging. Now comes one of my favorite parts, differential hardening. The edge is cooled quickly to achieve maximum hardness. The spine cools more slowly, remaining tougher and more flexible. This creates a blade that can cut aggressively while still resisting shock and stress. Now the blade begins to come alive. Final grinding, sharpening, polishing. Every small detail affects how the knife moves through material. The angle of the edge, the smoothness of the grind, the balance of the blade. A good knife should cut naturally, without force, without fighting the hand. Now I begin shaping the handle from the deer antler. Antler is lightweight, durable, and warm in the hand during cold weather. Every piece is different. Each one carries its own natural texture, curves, and character. I try to preserve as much of that natural beauty as possible. Yakutia is one of the coldest inhabited regions on Earth. Winter temperatures here can drop below -50 degrees Celsius. Under those conditions, ordinary tools can become brittle or unreliable. Traditional knife forms developed specifically to survive this environment. Even simple details like handle shape or sheath construction were influenced by extreme cold. In some families, a knife became one of the first serious tools given to a young person. Receiving a personal knife often marked an important step toward adulthood and responsibility. A knife had to be maintained, sharpened, protected, respected. That knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Now I test the sharpness. Even a simple paper test reveals a great deal about edge geometry and cutting smoothness. The blade is ready. Now the sheath begins. I start by shaping the wooden core from oak. Oak is extremely durable and has been used for centuries in many traditional crafts. It handles cold temperatures well and protects the blade from impact. I pay close attention to the grain direction, destiny, and structure of the wood. Small details influence how knife fits inside the sheath and how comfortably it can be carried. This stage takes time. The fit must feel natural, not loose, not overly tight. One of the most satisfying parts of traditional craftsmanship is watching simple materials slowly become functional objects. Wood, steel, leather, none of them are especially impressive on their own, but together they create something durable and deeply human. This knife is not an exact historical replica. It's my own interpretation of Yakut knife. I follow traditional principles and construction methods, but I also adapt the knife to my own experience and way of working. That's how living crafts traditions survive. Each generation preserves something old while adding something personal. Now I begin working with the leather. I use vegetable tan leather. This is one of the oldest and most reliable methods of leather processing. The material remains dense, durable, and ages beautifully over time. First, I soak the leather in water. It absorbs moisture and it becomes soft and flexible, almost like clay. At this moment, the leather begins to memorize the shape of the sheath. I carefully form it around the oak core. The knife should fit securely but still draw smoothly with one hand. Traditional Yakut sheaths were designed to remain usable even while wearing thick winter gloves. Simple but extremely intelligent. As the leather slowly dries, it hardens and keeps its shape. Traditionally, Yakut knives were often worn loosely on the belt. This allowed the sheath to move naturally while working, riding, or working in the forest. Many traditional objects look simple only because generations of craftsmen already solved the difficult problems long ago. Now I mark the stitching line. Accuracy here matters. I drill each hole by hand. Slow work, but precise. For stitching, I used strong wax thread. Historically, craftsmen often used linen or sinew threads treated with wax for additional durability. Now the sheath is sewn together, stitch by stitch. Hand stitching takes concentration and patience. but it also creates an extremely strong seam. Unlike many machine stitches, a traditional saddle stitch remains secure even if part of the thread becomes damaged. This is one of the reasons hand-stitched leatherwork can survive for decades. Now I finished the edges, first sanding them smooth, then compressing and polishing the surface. These small details are important. Traditional craftsmanship often reveals itself in the areas people notice last. The combination of oak and leather has survived for centuries for a reason. Wood gives structure, leather provides protection and flexibility. Together, they create a sheath capable of surviving moisture, cold, and long use outdoors. Now the leather is dyed. Good leather never looks completely uniform. Natural variations in color and texture give it character. Finally, I apply wax. The wax protects leather from moisture and wear while deepening the surface texture. The Yakut knife is more than simply a blade. It represents practical knowledge shaped by climate, work, and generations of experience. And that is what I admire most about traditional craft. Good design survives, not because it's fashionable, but because it continues to work. This knife is my own small tribute of that tradition, and now it is ready for many years of use.